You are listening to Live Free with Rebecca Packard. With this podcast, Rebecca will help spiritual entrepreneurs and mompreneurs experience emotional freedom so that they can create calm and balance in all areas of their life. If you're ready to release your emotional baggage, trauma, and that constant feeling of overwhelm, then you are in the right place. Your journey starts now. Here's your host, Rebecca Packard.
Hi, welcome back. It's Rebecca Packard, and you are here with Live Free with Rebecca Packard. I am so excited that you're tuning in again today, and we are talking about what are you watching on TV? If you tuned in last week, you were here as our guest, Adrian Blackwell, was sharing different aha moments, light bulb moments that even she was having as we were talking about the different cartoons and television shows and behind the scenes that have happened for us, and the programming and the unconscious development of our identities that takes place through the things that we're watching. And in the space of what are the different things that you're tuning into? What are you watching? What are you listening to? Where are you showing up in life? And what are you maybe not having boundaries on? Or even maybe you're unaware of the different things that are affecting your sleep and your eating patterns and your social patterns and the things that are happening around you. I know that this is not something you learn in school. In fact, I think it's one of the things that they would prefer nobody talk about, because this is $1 billion industry of marketing. Marketing is taking place constantly. People are all over the place marketing. Today they call it influencers. They used to call it commercials. And in every single movie, you'll see ticketed items in movies, and people paid thousands of dollars to have those things put in front of you so that you see them over and over again. So you go out and you buy these things, or you're seeing conversations and social situations and different things happening, and you will start to emulate them. You will start to recreate them. Your body, your mind, your subconscious mind, it does not know past, present, and future. It only knows now. And so if you're watching a violent show, your subconscious mind actually doesn't realize that you're not in the room that that's happening in. And so where are the things that are causing you more stress, causing you more anxiety, causing you more overwhelm? Maybe for some of us, that's the television programs that we're tuning into. A lot of people say, oh no, that's just entertainment. But in today's world, the level of entertainment has become quite drastic, and the amount of violence that we see on television has become next level. And don't get me wrong, I am a history buff. I watch a lot of documentaries. Sometimes those things are violent, but utilizing tools to take care of the triggers or the trapped emotions or the overwhelm that comes from some of those things, those are the things that we need to start talking about. A lot of the time I'll find people have come for an emotion code session, and they will say, okay, so what do I need to do now? And I'll say, oh well, you drink water. And I'll get a call or I'll get a text, and I'll get a response to my follow-up email of, thank you so much, I was feeling amazing, and then I watched blah 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 show, or then I watched a movie, or I had somebody, we were working on traumas, and then that night they went and they watched a horror movie out in the theater and they had a panic attack. And I was like, yes. So two folds right there. One, we were already digging around in those spaces, so you were more sensitive. But two, you are so affected by the things that you're watching on TV. And one of the things that Adrian Blackwell and I discussed was, she had this light bulb moment when I said, it's no wonder so many people moved around and there were so many different things happening in the space of Popeye. Because she talked about how much she moved and how many times she moved in her early years. that he was a sailor. Sailors constantly moved. That cartoon was out during post World War II, and he was a sailor and he was constantly on the move. It had negative connotations around men interacting with men and men interacting with women, and different stereotypes are aired in that space. And this happens all over the place. This is happening in television today. I know a lot of people say, oh, well, TV back then. FYI, TV today. TV today is having those conversations. It's just, are you acknowledging them or not acknowledging them? And in the space of that, are you open to what they're suggesting, or are you choosing to only watch programs that support the choices that support your outline and your idea of what is appropriate? And you guys, that doesn't mean everybody freak out, because it's going to be different for every single person. And some people are for it and some people aren't. And that's cool. Take what works. We say this every single show. Take what works, leave what doesn't. But be aware. Oh man, just be aware. There's so many times where they don't show you the same commercial or have you listen to the same commercial 12, 15, 20 times in a 1 hour, 2 hour period for no reason. Or on certain shows, they don't have certain um, commercials airing around those shows for no reason. It's because they know the demographic fits. They know that if the more that they show it, they say that the first 7 times people kind of see it, but 7 to 12 is where purchases happen. It's why, like, you'll be watching something and you'll be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm seeing this again. Or why are they mentioning this again? Are they like a broken record? No, it's because come bringing it up on the 7th through 12th time, the more they say it, the more purchases get made. It's not by accident in any way, shape, or form. There's a fine science to this. It's been studied over and over and over again. It's why analytics are such a big thing when we talk about social media today. We're talking about, oh, don't forget to track your analytics and to track your click rate and to track this and track that. When you're working with a coach or you're working with a marketer, they're always asking you these different questions. What's your conversion? What's this? What's that? And because they want to look, what are the words you're using? What are the colors you're using? What is the tonage you're using? Because then they'll have you duplicate more of that. And it's happening on TV, and it's happening in music, and it's happening on cartoons. So what are your kids taking in? What are the different unconscious programming and social stereotyping that's happening on TV around you? This is a hot topic, I know, and I know that a lot of people are going to have words about this. But when Adrienne realized that she was a binge watcher, what we call binge watching today, she watched um, Popeye over and over and over again her whole youth, and then found that without even realizing it, she had been moving and moving and moving. And yes, it had to do a little bit with family background, and when parents move, kids move. You got to do what you got to do, right? But it also, she realized that in her like her young adult life, she was moving a ton. And she was like, wow, I never put those two things together. And where are you seeing these things take place for you? Leave in the comments. I'd love to hear what your thoughts are for this, and I'd love to hear what your idea behind this is. If you're tuning into here, I know that you're somebody who's totally into tracking the different things that you're taking in and looking at the different ways that the world around you is impacting you, and what is your effect on that space. Because I'm not going to lie, these days everything is being tracked. So the more that you watch something, the more they say, let's show more of this. So if you're somebody who wants less violence in the world, stop watching violent television. If you're somebody who wants to see more of those cheesy, happy, like aspects of the world, or you want to see joy around you, watch more of that, because they're literally tracking that, and they will show you more and more and more of it. They're having this happen on Facebook. A lot of people have been very angry about what's happening in the space of social media, and how They are tracking you to a T and then showing you things that emulate all the things that you are tuning into. And for some people, that's really good. But for some people, that's really awful. And so you just get this idea that everything around you is bad. And that's not true. It's quite far from the truth. And so being more conscious, being more cognizant, being more in the space of, we always talk about being in your energy and taking the time to be the conscious contributor of your energy and your energy in the world. This is a really great way to show up. If you're new to this, if you're just starting this journey, this is a really great way to fine tune the energy in your being and in your home, and to change that silent vibrational conversation. I always share the story of, I don't watch the news. I know what's going on in the world because I know first thing some people who are binge watching the news say is like, how do you know what's going on in the world? But I don't watch the news. I haven't since easily 2004, 2005. And I don't watch the news because after 15 years in EMS, it was disturbing to me that people would argue with me about what they had seen on the news versus what I was telling them was true after being the person standing on the scene and saying that never actually took place. And they would say, but they said it on the news. And I said, I was physically the truck on the scene and that did not happen. I don't understand why they're reporting that, but that was not what took place. And so I think it's very important that in today's world, in today's society, we get really clear about what we want to tune into and get really clear on how we want to show up, because all of these things affect your mental health, your physical health, your social being, and your ability to show up for yourself. And I definitely think that in the space of opening up your energy, opening up to releasing your fear and your trauma and your overwhelm and reducing chaos in your house, one of the things that we need to think about is, what are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you surrounding yourself with? Because television, music, all of that has a vibration. Colors have a frequency, sound has a frequency, and that will directly affect you. It will. It has been scientifically tracked for decades. They have literally been working on this since the 50s, and I mean 1950s, depending on when you're listening to this. So this is not without scientific background and truth. It's not just like, oh, it's woo, that's cool, but it's legit. So, where are the things that you can choose or not choose to tune into, to tap into, to align with, to engage with, to disengage from? These are the spaces where you need to choose your boundaries. We talk about boundaries a lot in this space because so few people have boundaries anymore. And boundaries don't have to be picket fences with barbed wire and all the things. You can just say, okay, well, I'm going to watch this, but then maybe for the next 6 nights, I don't watch anything with violence because that is not what I want to continue to feed. Or maybe you start to watch something and you go, you know what? I'm finding that I'm being really triggered in this space, and I'm going to listen to myself and I'm going to shut this down. Or you actively choose as a parent to watch some of the programs that you're letting your children watch and go, no, I don't think I want my 5-year-old to talk like a 16-year-old or act like a 16-year-old or show up in the world dressed like a 16-year-old. So I'm going to choose not to let them watch this program. Um, and I know that a lot of people will also say, well, I can just tell them not to. But from 0 to 7, you're being programmed, silently programmed by the world around you. You're unconscious to it, and it's just happening. And so that's happening through the conversations that the adults are having. It's happening through conversations that people around you are having. It's happening through the music and the television and all these different little things that are taking place in the world that's happening around them. And when we don't choose to parent that space, or we don't choose to show up in that space, sometimes we can lose track of what we really want our humans to show up in the world as, or to support, or to embrace, right? And so there's a lot of different levels to this. And it's not just you in the world, or your kid in the world, or your family in the world, but it is a lot of levels, and it's a lot to take in. And it is one of those conversations that's hard to have. It's a hard conversation to discuss. But I really, really, really feel like this was a really great topic to cover, and a really great conversation to have, because so few people are having it. And in the world today, I really feel like it's definitely a conversation that needs to be opened up and discussed in a bigger, brighter way. So one of the things that I highly suggest is doing an audit. Do an audit. You audit everything else. Let's be real. You audit your clothes seasonally. You audit your shoe collection seasonally. You're auditing your music list constantly, and your social media constantly. So audit, what are you taking in for music? What are you taking in for television and entertainment, and on social media? What are you taking in? What are you getting shown a ton of? And do you like that? Do you want to continue that? There are great stations out there now that are totally focused at all things high vibe, all things self-help or personal development. And then, you don't have to be all or one. You don't have to be like, well, now I'm a vegan. You don't have to do that, but you can mix it up, maybe find balance in it. I mean, my husband used to be a huge horror guy. He loved horror movies. And I'm like, no, dude, I don't watch those anymore. And when he started to open up to the world we live in the space of, um, we're both emotion code practitioners, we run our business together, we meditate, we are all about our connection and our different levels. He has clear audience and a couple other aspects, and I have my different levels of where I'm open in that spiritual space. But the second that it became more clear to him, he realized that those horror movies were having a bigger effect on him than he could have ever imagined. And he stopped watching them. It was really amazing to watch that unfold. And he has been really amazing in the space of being like, I heard this was a really great show for the kids, but I'd like to watch it first because I don't know how I'm going to feel about it. And to have a man do that is really, really incredible, because a lot of the times we'll find that that doesn't happen. And that's just plain truth, okay? It's just plain truth. But if more of us did that, men, women, all of us work together to actively choose these things, we could really shift the energy around us in our homes and in our environments and even in our communities, because you start to share, oh, well, what are you watching? Well, this is what I'm watching. Maybe you should watch it. Oh, well, this is what I'm watching, and maybe you should watch this. You will see that go out like fire. I mean, you've seen it on the Queen's Gambit. You literally saw how that went like wildfire. There had been so many. That book was written decades ago, and now it's a #1 seller, a New York Times bestseller, and it went through the roof on Amazon, and it went through the roof on chest set sales. Like, they have not sold that many chess sets in decades. Like, really crazy stuff. So be aware that everything you're doing, everything you're taking in is affecting you in some way, shape, or form, and it's affecting the world around you. And so I know this has been a really open-ended conversation in the space of talking about how one conversation about a cartoon has brought us to this conversation about what is it that you're tuning into and what is the environment that you're looking to create and how can you show up to do that in your world, in your life. And I think the best way to start that is with an entertainment audit. Check it out, see what comes up. Maybe I'll even link a checklist to you in the notes below. I'll create an audit for you to go through and see, how am I showing up in the world in this space? And again, are you spending a ton of time in that space? Because that's another thing. Boundaries, they can be flexible. But if you're binge watching murder mysteries 24/7, we're a little out of balance there, you know? So I love these conversations. I'm so happy that you're here and you're tuning in and you're learning tools, tips, and tricks to decrease the overwhelm in life, to create calm in the chaos of what life can be, and to learn from some of the most amazing people. Our guests here are incredible people. They're touching lives and leaving legacies, and so are you. You are no different than any of the people that we have here in this space, and you're leaving a legacy of the world around you, of the lives that you touch each and every day. And a lot of that happens through your children or your grandchildren or your significant other and your neighborhood. So make sure it's a good legacy. And we'll see you here again next week.
Well, hey there. Thanks for listening to today's episode. We would love it if you would leave us a rating and review in your favorite podcast player. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode.